Hello everyone, can you hear me? Actually, wait, that's pretty cool. They haven't, I don't think I never realized, or they always had that mute feature online. You can tell someone's muted. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. It is definitely morning for me, and it's really bright and early for a Wix workshop. But if you let me know in chat that you can hear me, that'll be greatly appreciated. I'm gonna get started with dropping the check-in link for everyone to actually check in. Because today we're going to be doing some Wix learning, and we're going to go over a really quick Wix, and then help hopefully create something new by the end of today. And then the goal of today's workshop is to have you leave today with something you continue to work on throughout this week, and really to improve the rest of your skills within Wix and helping build a workshop. So yeah, real quick, I just dropped the check-in link. Please make sure to check in. It is what we use for data, and as well as for you to possibly earn swag throughout Global Hack Week. And if you guys don't know, this is Global Hack Week March, which we also call it our Social Good Global Hack Week. So we're going to be working on stuff related to social good. That being said, we're actually going to get started. So first things first, I'm going to share my screen. And we are going to take a look at this page. So really quick, if you don't know, Wix is essentially a faster way to build a website. It is what we used to call website builder, where it's not working. Let me check that. Hold on. Oh, I guess something's updated. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna hide that for a second to check this, just to make sure I don't accidentally break anything. It worked for me to join the event. I'm gonna drop it again to chat. I just tested it, so you can see it seemed functional to me. If you let me know what error you might be getting, we can take a look at that. But outside of that, let's get going for today. Okay, cool. So Wix is known as a website builder, and because a lot of people who might not necessarily have the technical skill, always like businesses, small local businesses, want to, let's say, build a website, we have products such as Wix that allows them to use a more drag and drop or a more already designed set aesthetic solution for them to be able to quickly scale up and quickly create, let's say, a website for them to use. But in the growth of also developers in the same industry, Wix has built in something called Velo by Wix, is what we're going to be exploring today. And what Velo by Wix is, it gives you the best of both worlds. It gives you the ability to use the natural website builder that is built into Wix on top of your usual development environment, such as libraries, packages. It allows you to write custom code. It allows you to interact with the whole DOM interfaces. It allows you to interact with different parts of the website, catch elements, catch events, and make it so you can build actual dynamic website. So today what we're going to be building it's called To-Do List. It is one of the Wix workshop. I will be dropping this link later. But as you can see, it is a to-do list that everyone can edit. And we'll see how you can actually make this, right? So like you can see on my to-do list, I have come up with some sort of good social good ideas. Complete the Global Hack Week Wix workshop. Learn how to make a to-do list. So for this, we will need to start here. I'm actually going to back out by one. So welcome to the Wix to-do list workshop. This is going to be the GitHub link we're going to be following. So I'm going to drop in the chat for people to continue to work on this as we progress through the week of Global Hack Week. Social good. It is a really good training for your understanding of a CURD program. If you do not understand, a CURD program stands for, I might have said that wrong, but it stands for, it's spelled C-R-U-D. It stands for ability to create something, ability to read something, ability to update something, ability to delete something. That's what a CURD application is. So for example, in our to-do list application, once we are done, you have the ability to add something. So adding that through this text box and adding what you want to do. You have the ability to clear something from the clear complete, which should be highlighted on your screen right now. You have the ability to modify something by changing the stats and statuses of, let's say, what something has been done or not. You have the ability to delete, read. You can just read essentially the screen itself. So there's your create, your read, your update, and your clear or delete operation. Are we going to do like a Kanban board? We are not. We're just, you guys can do that if you want to keep track of your own progress. But what we're going to do is we're going to walk through the different modules. So Velo by Wix also writes the step-by-step, essentially, workshop that allows you to really learn how to use their application. We want to get as far as we can today in our short time together. And then from there, we'll let you take it over and try to complete the complete workshop if we don't finish. And then from there, you can build upon it. You can build around this and add more pages, add more websites, add more web functionality. And that's all perfectly fine. So first things first is we're going to actually follow through this, right? So doing so, I'm actually going to blow this up a bit to make sure everyone can read. So we're going to first things first. You can get started. We're going to use this pre-designed template. So first, we're going to sign into Wix and go to this template where you can just click on this template, and it will take you to the sign-in page for Wix. That being said, I'm going to go back here. I will drop this in the chat if you are ready to go directly from the GitHub link. You can just click on this. So this will allow it to render a new copy of their template. But also, you can also just follow along through the actual README. So I'm actually going to take this off screen real quick and log into my Wix account. Just give me 1 second. Logging into Wix account. Let's see. Wix. See, I don't remember my credentials. People should usually do Wix accounts. Oh, on it. So log in. I should be able to put in your email. If you don't have an account, you can go ahead and create one from Velo by Wix. It's completely free, a Wix account. And then once you're done, we're going to bring this back up. So once you have logged in, you can see this template start loading in. And once the template loads in, it brings you to the Wix website editor. Once you're at the Wix website editor, you can see it's loading in the actual template we just copied, which should look kind of like this because this is our base and our start. And from there, we're going to slowly go through the list. So first thing, I'm going to make a copy of the template, which has happened. It will, let's say, let's have fun. Okay. So the first thing is they also break this down into modules so you understand what you're doing. The first module we're going to be doing is called create a database collection for tasks. It stores all the tasks in a dedicated collection. So a database collection is Wix's almost way of doing a simple database, or also, I guess it is just called database. Designing. It makes databases a lot easier for developers and also small business owner alike who might just want to be using a website builder but have a way to store certain type of data and then use that data throughout their website. So first things first, we're going to enter this this part or this module of the Wix workshop. So first things first, we're going to attempt to do is called create a database collection for tasks. So it goes by step-by-step instructions so you fully understand. So I see I'm waiting for this to fully load in. As you can see now, this is fully loaded in. It is the template for what our web page would look like. I'm going to zoom out a tad bit because it's already pretty big. And then from there, first thing first, you can see that up here it says dev mode. Dev mode is already enabled by default, but dev mode is what gives you the ability to actually modify, let's say, code in the home page or look at different JavaScript files. We're going to go over that slowly as we go along. But first thing first, you can see there's a few things. You have page code. This is the code that you use for each page in your Wix application. You have public and backend, which is your general stuff, such as you can have your backend code as well as public code that can be called anywhere from your site, or your backend code. You also have a search functionality. You have code packages. So this will allow you to use any package you would normally do in your web development experience. So Wix will help you speed that up a bit. Then you have databases. This is where we're actually going to be starting today, is in the databases. And if you can follow along, you can see that first thing first, we go to our site structure on the left bar and navigate to databases. I'm going to slowly stop going back to this page. You can definitely follow along on this page as we go along, and because that's been dropped into the chat, but I'm going to just be having that pulled up to the side as we walk through the rest of this. So first thing first, we're going to go to databases. We're going to click on that. You can see it says my collection, external collection. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a new collection, which you can do with this plus up here. We're going to click on create a collection because we're trying to create a collection to store our to-do list task. To create your first collection, start using yes. If you ever want to know, there's always articles on the bottom of these tools for you to learn more about them. Also, I just want to say, if you have any questions, please feel free to stop me, and we're going to go over your question. This is a pretty cool Major League Hacking hat, by the way. I was told I should wear more swag. Not really a hat person. I mean, at least I usually don't wear hats, so this is a pretty interesting thing. Okay, cool. So first thing first, we're going to first start a collection. So first thing, we want to name the collection, right? So it's kind of like naming your database. If you've ever taken a database course or class at your school, online, you know, there you name your this is like naming your table or naming your actual whole entire database. Where it's called, I should know this, naming your, I think it's your relation, but essentially, if you've ever taken an actual database course, I need to brush up on my databases. But this is like naming essentially your table. If you look at a database's design, this is your table. I'm pretty sure it's also called your relation. So your name, your table, your relation, etc. So we're going to name our table or relation. I'm going to call it to-do list. And then this will set a collection ID. This is just a way to identify your database throughout your code if you're going to reference to it. And we're going to align multiple items. I'm going to double check this is how they want me to configure this database real quick. So click on title, add a field, click on title name. Okay, 2 items. Okay, so cool. This looks good. So we're going to create. So how many items you want in your collection essentially is allowing you to select the type of database kind of you have. So we can have multiple views for your database. And first we're going to go, so you see a default title has been generated. Now we're going to add another field and we're going to call it. Wait, I think each of these are called attributes as well. If you know, and if you know, feel free to correct me. Everyone's learning together, so don't ever feel like you can't correct me if I'm ever saying anything wrong. Well, you know, a cool fact, a cool trip. Always feel free to please drop it into the chat, and we're going to take a look at it. So first things first, we're going to now create a completed item, or a completed attribute, and from that we're going to add a field. We're going to call it. It's going to be a Boolean. Oh, I should probably edit this one. Manage fields. Wait, no. Is it? I do go here, create new field, and then I guess I have to do. I might have to delete that one because I think that took it as a text. But essentially, we're going to change this name to completed. Save, and then that's done. Now we can hit to-do list. So there we go. So I actually delete this. I don't think I need this multi. I think I made a mistake. So what you actually want to do is click on title. You can build on this additional field. So this is adding an item in the field. I think I actually meant to build upon the schema of the database. So I'm supposed to click on this actually. That is my apology. This is adding an item to the actual database. You want to click on this, and then you want to click on Boolean, and then you want to create a new Boolean scheme or a Boolean attribute that allows you to be able to check, and that's how we're going to keep track of, let's say something is complete or not, where also is part of the update part of our cured application. Okay, cool. So when that is done, okay, add a few items, right? So first things first, let's say we're going to add an item called, let's say, complete Global Hack Week Wix workshop. I'm gonna hit that's done, and then you can see that automatically generated a checkbox to say is it complete or not. And I'm gonna add a second item. Let's say checked in for Global Hack Week workshop. I have done that, so I'm going to go ahead and go over to the completed box, mark as complete. So you can see that you have now 2 items within this database, and we have marked them one as complete, one as not. Next is we want to actually open our permissions and more action. We want to open our permissions module with dialog that allows you to modify permission. As you can see, I can go on this page that I don't own, and I can actually update and create and clear and actually do things on this page. And what allows us to do this is the permission of who can actually edit the database, or call collection in our case. So the permission we want to be able to do is anyone. That means when we say anyone, we legitimately mean anyone. So we want to change that who can actually view the content. We want it so any site member author can, let's say, view the content. What this means is a sign-in user who adds content can add content to this collection. Anyone would mean some who don't even have an account, which makes it really hard for people to add things to the collection. So anyone who signed in can actually view this content. So if you are signed in, you can see this and all that information. We want to make it so who can add content. So if people can add content, any site member can add content. So who is the author of the page can actually view the content of, let's say, the database, and it can add content to the database. This is not your front end, by the way. This is just who can actually modify your collection and database. So any sign-in member who's an author can actually see what I'm seeing right now in the content manager, look at the database, and so on and so forth. Hello, 404. It is, I can't remember if it's late where you are or early, but thanks for joining me today. And then who can delete the content? We don't really want any site member who just signed in to be able to come in and delete things. So we want to set it so a site author can delete. Who can update? We can say site author can update. These are the permissions we want to set. We have set those permissions, and then that should be actually module 1. So if you see on the bottom, there is something that allows you to just click on next module. I'm going to show you real quick. So we're going to move on to module 2 of our workshop for today. So for module 2, our job is to present the task on the actual web page. And what is cool about building and we're operating in this kind of like mixed framework where we have our traditional website builder or a website editor, plus our ability to use development tool, is there becomes really nice ways to quickly speed up your application development because they have built out tools or elements that allows you to build websites really, really quick. So on the home page, we're going to first have a repeater. We already have a repeater element, which are these, right? So you can see task title 1, task title 2. And what we're going to do is for each within this checkbox and the text element. So you can see here, there's a checkbox with this toggle button and the text element. We'll now present the task from our collection in this repeater without writing any code. To do this, first things first is we're going to link our repeater to the data set. Yeah, for sure. So today we're doing a Wix workshop on creating a CRUD application. A CRUD application is an application that allows users to create, read, update, and delete things. We're building a really quick to-do list from using Wix and using specifically Velo by Wix. We can see that in the to-do list, you have the way to create an item by using the insert toolbox up front, on top. You can see you can actually update item, or I guess read. You can read the item by just really coming down here and you're reading the information that's being displayed. You can update an item by just checking with dechecking that item. You can delete an item by clearing all complete. So it's a full-on CRUD application. We're really just learning about how to walk through this to-do workshop from Wix. I will drop this link in chat for you one more time. So this workshop you can continue to work on after today or after the stream to complete this full entire workshop. And also, that is great. 10 p.m. is not late. It's perfect stream timing. Okay, so right now we're on essentially part 2 of the Wix workshop. Part 1 is really easy to do. You can catch up pretty quickly because we're going pretty slow to make sure everyone is caught up and understand what is going on. So now we just created our collection is what we did in part 1. And then part 2, what we're doing is we're going to link our collection to our repeater object or element that is built in by Wix. So if you go over here, you should be able to see that there is this and this triple dot looking hamburger thing. We actually want to go into, wait, is it quick edit? I should be able to edit this. There we go. So now we're in here. So I actually just zoom in. So you can see there's a repeater element. And what we're going to do is we want to link it. We want to connect this to data so it knows where to pull the data. So first things first, we're going to first create a data set. And our data set is going to be created off of our collection. So we're going to create it off of our to-do list collection. And you can really just name your data set whatever you want, and we hit create. So now we create a database connection between our repeater element, which simplifies the ability to use multiple data points from the database. And now we can choose, let's see, so we can choose how everything is connected, right? So for a task, I want to connect this to the title text from our element. And then we're going to go back. And for, let's say, the switch, we want to connect this to our toggle, right? Our toggle boolean. So that's what we'll say if it's checked off or not. So we just connected our text to that. If we have additional things that's in our database or in our collection, we can also connect, let's say, an image, which we don't have. We can connect a background, which we don't have. And those would be something cool for you to continue to build upon afterwards. So once everything is done, you're going to close the dialog box. So I'm going to close it up here. And then we're going to now, there's a new element on the page called to-do task data set. And you can see that right here, right? So this is the actual database we have generated from pulling information from the connection and tying that into this dynamic element called repeater. So when that is done, first things first, we're going to go into select our database because we want to manage how a user from this web page, because we manage our collection permission. Now we just want to manage our permission for the actual data set for how our user will interact with this information. So first things first is we're going to click on this, and then we're going to click on settings. And can you please repeat the repeater? Oh, yeah, for sure. So for the repeater, you want to essentially link the database. So first things first, you want to not select one repeater, but select the whole entire repeater. So once I click on repeater, you want to click on connected to data. What this allows you to do is connect it to a backend collection you already made and create a database for the repeater to pull from. You're going to first, you're going to create a new data set if you have not created one yet. And then you're going to name it to-do list data set. And then you'll see the different elements that's within this repeater. And you can see how, and you're going to choose how they link it to your backend or your collection. So what I'm going to do is take the text part of this repeater and we're going to link it to the text or title part in our collection. And then I'm going to take the switch part, which is this toggle switch, and link it to the Boolean part of our collection that we generated earlier. If you remember, if I go back to our collection or database and go back to to-do list, you can see we have a completed, and it's a Boolean, a title, that's a text. We're going to link them together into this. So you can see that I checked check-in for global happy workstream. It was checked as true in a Boolean state. You can see this toggle switch automatically switches true. And that works because this data has been connected through the repeater or to the repeater. But now we're going to modify the settings of this database so we can figure out who can actually edit stuff, who can't edit stuff. So we're going to first go to database settings. And within database settings, what we want to do is we're going to scroll down. Well, there you go, found it. So you want to change mode to read and write. This allows the people who are modifying or interacting with the web page to actually not only read from the database, but also write to it so we can actually create new tasks. And then we're going to close this out once we switch it to read and write. And once that is done, we're going to click on the preview button. And this sometimes takes forever. I'm hoping today's internet is going to be great and it's not going to take forever. We can see we kind of already have some resemblance of what the full page should kind of look like, right? You have this box, you can toggle, untoggle, you can clear completed task, and so on and so forth. So now so the issue right now is that we have the items being displayed, but we still need a bit more work so we can actually have the front end update the collections data. But that is our next thing. We're going to add functionality to add a new task. We're going to actually make this work. For example, if I type in right in here right now, right? So let's say add new task functionality. If I hit this, nothing happens because we have not built in the functionality for the update part of our code. I mean, the create part of our code application, which should have been done through here. So now we're going to somehow link this top part into our collection. So every time someone edits the top part, this information gets added to our collection, and then the repeater will automatically update because the collection is then linked to our database, and then will automatically update. The collection is kind of like the backend version of the database. We have created, they call it a database, where we're just linking it to data, and then that creates a simple data set for the repeater to read from. So in the right now, we're going to work on is creating the ability to add this to our collection. Then that will automatically be implemented into our data set, which then the repeater pulls from. We'll get it completely work. Can I repeat, please? Yes. So I realize there's a lot of terminology that might be specific to Wix. So a collection is like your back-end version of a database. So this is how we describe the actual database in the schema. And then once we get to what we call this, which is the repeater, it allows you to easily repeat different elements in the website, so you don't have to build it over and over again. And what we do is we connect it to the backend data collection through using connected data. We select the data set, which is the collection we want to use. So once we select the collection, we generate what we call a data set. And the data set allows you to basically tell it how to link items that is in these elements from the repeater to your collection. And what we're going to do next is, for the next step, we want to create this top part where it allows us to take input and have this input go into the collection, which is the backend part. And from there, the data set automatically will pull from the backend part and then update our repeater up front, because there has been a change made to our collection in the backend. Does that make sense? If you don't, I can repeat that again. But yeah, so the next things next, we're going to do add-on functionality of the ability to add a new task. And this is a pretty cool chart. So I'm actually going to go here. We're going to scroll down to the bottom, function into new task. So first things are, here's the user flow of adding a new task, right? So the user can enter a new task in the task input, a new task in the text input. And then we can either on a button click or on a key press, we want to add it to the collection. And then we want to update the UI with the new task. And then we want to clear the text input so that isn't still in the text input. So this one is pretty cool. I'm going to walk through this a bit here and then start implementing it. Is that this part we actually get to explore and actually see what we meant by it being a website builder. But on top of that, a website editor and a really built-in integrated IDE or integrated developer experience or environment. What am I saying? Integrated developer environment. I'm pretty sure. If I'm wrong on that, please don't delete me. But here's some new concept that was pretty neat to understand. So in Wix, they built this $W that allows you to select and return elements from a page. So for example, I'm going to scroll down real quick to show you it being used, right? So if we use $W and then we, let's say, pull on this element, we can see, and then we can actually pull this element down to create a call event handler, or sometimes we call them event listeners, and we can tell them what to do. So this is saying on click, you want to call add new task. We can see what add new task do up here as you go along. Wix data is the function for working with the data in the collection. That's why we have to import this. This allows us to actually, with our code or our integrated code part of the front end, to interact with the collection part of the back end. Then you have event handlers. Event handlers are essentially every time, let's say something happens on web page, what will actually happen is your web page fires an event. And your event handler is what tells the web page how to handle those events. When you click on something, let's say click on the button, you need to event handler is being fired, and then you need code to actually catch that event handler and do some action with it. So you can read through this code later, but what we're going to do is we're going to copy a lot of this over. So through the step-by-step instruction, the first thing we're going to do is add it to our home page. So our home page is what this page is, and then you can see down here we have a bunch of code, and this is where we're going to be modifying. The first thing first is we're going to use import. Like most application or most programming language, we have this. We want to import Wix data. This allows us to work with our collection backend, and we're going to do import Wix data from Wix-data. Then we're going to, it's in JavaScript, so we're going to do a colon, we'll hit enter. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to create a constant. A constant is like in a lot of different languages is naming things like var, let, constant. That's for, let's say, JavaScript. It's the same thing of doing int something. But in JavaScript, it's kind of like Python, where you don't have to, Python, you completely don't declare the type of variable. For JavaScript, you declare either a let, a const, or a var. We don't use var anymore because those allow changing. So what it do is, one of the ones we don't use anymore, I'm pretty sure it's var. But const, essentially, you create a constant, And once you declare it, it can't be modified throughout. The first thing we're going to do is create a constant called TODO collection. And then the reason why this is a constant is we're going to be using this as reference for our actual code, and we're going to call it TODO. I think I didn't call it TODO task, but let's see. So they call this TODO task. We might need to make a few modifications because I didn't stick to the naming scheme of things. So I'm actually going to click on this real quick. So I called it TODO list. I'm going to see more actions, collection settings, collection name is TODO list. Okay. So I think TODO collection is called TODO list. You might have it called TODO task or etc. I called it TODO list. And I'm going to create another const. I'm going to call it TODO data set. So this is the identifier for your data set because you want to be able to modify collection, have it update your data set. And from there, we want to actually click on this. And you can see it's hashtag data set 1. So that's great. So the element is called hashtag data set 1. And don't forget your semicolons for this coding language. So hashtag data set 1 TODO list. And next, we're going to write our async functions that handles creating the new task. So async, we're going to create a function that is async, or it's asynchronous. So function, and we're going to call it add new task. We're going to break this down. We're going to create a const. And then we're going to call it task title. If you're following along, you can also feel free to just copy directly through the workshop. I'm going to type it out so I have a better understanding what everything's doing. That's if anyone has questions. So we're going to use W, which allows you to, again, locate, select, and return the element on the page. So we're going to use a W, and we're going to say look for hashtag task input. Right? It's really cool, and this works because if you're curious, if you hover over, let's say, this item, you can see that this item in code will be referenced with the W as task input. Oh, I guess it automatically also put it in for me. So I'm going to take out my extra W. So the title of the task we want to create in the new collection, we want the title to be the input, right? So this is what we want the title to be. And then we want to, so this only pulls down the information element. Now we want to say what we want from this element. So I say I want the actual title, text. Value. So I want the value. So whatever is entered in here, it becomes the value of this object is how it gets it to display. So what I want is I want to grab this element's value object, which is what I type in here, and that will be pulled into, let's say, the task title. So we're going to close that. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to tab in and we're going to do another selection. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a hashtag task input dot value is equal to blank, empty string, right? So what this does is this allows us to pull the value, set it to a constant for us to use later to update our collection, update our data set. But we also want to clear it, right? So once a user actually types it in here and hits enter, what we want to happen is for the string to be stored and then cleared. So this is what allows us to be able to type something, hit enter, and it disappears. So now that is done, we're going to write a simple if statement, and we're going to write if task title from the constant we just created trim. And also, what's really cool about Velo by Wix as well is as you're programming, it gives you a lot of IDE hints and understanding of what it does, right? So we know that if you didn't know, the trim method on a string removes the leading and trailing spaces and the line terminator from the end of the string. So essentially, what it does is if there's any space, if I entered a bunch of space, put my task into a bunch of space, it will trim it all out. If there is a new line, because remember, a user might hit enter as their way of finalizing that task or completing it, that will also get trimmed off. So we're going to do trim. So if we're going to make sure the trim is equal to empty string, we use 3 equal. That means absolutely equal in JavaScript. So it's not just checking for data, it's checking for the data type, the actual data itself, and that they must be exact copies of empty string. Also in JavaScript, you can use quotes or single quotes. Just try to keep it consistent. So I can technically do this. But for the sake of the tutorial and make sure everyone's following, we're going to use single quotes there. So what this essentially is saying, I I forgot, this is a method. A method, you need to close it out with curly braces. I mean, parentheses, so I know it's a method. And then I need to take out one additional because we're not closing it there. So what this is saying is we want to actually check this task. If someone just enter a bunch of spaces and hit enter, we want it to do whatever is in this if block, and which is going to be, we're going to return nothing. Return nothing. So we're going to see as we write out the rest of this function, you can see why we're returning nothing. So if it's not that, we're going to do a const new task. New task. So now we're creating the actual new task object, so we can actually add this to our collection, right? So we know a task in our collection has something called title. So we're going to create title, and the title we're going to set it to task title, and then we're going to set the default completed. If you don't ever remember, you always go back to your database and go back to to-do list. Okay, it's called completed. Yes, I just spelled it wrong. So it's completed. I think that is right? Let me just make sure it's the same. completed. So we're going to set completed to false. Because defaultly, if you're adding a new object, you shouldn't have been able to complete it. So we first, now this is us collecting the task name or title from the user. This is us trimming it or removing it. So if we're, what's up? If we are done, if let's say a user entered a bunch of spaces, we don't want that to actually enter our database. So we return and we just essentially jump out of this function and terminate it. And then if it is good, as in we do get something we want to add to our collection or our data set, we create a new task. And then this new task is made with a title from our collection. So we have to match them up. So a title called task title, then a completed Boolean called false or set to false. Next, we're going to await. So if you look over, let's see this. So await is just a simple thing. You'll learn about this later. You really have to understand now. So we're going to use await. And we're going to go to what we imported in earlier, which is Wix data, which allows us to work with the collection. We're going to insert into Wix data. We're going to use this collection. So we told it what collection. If you actually hover over insert, I'm pretty sure I'm going to just back out actually. So insert tells you you gave a collection ID as a string, and then the item you want to add to it, and then you'll add to it. So first we're going to do insert. So I'm going to bring back this, and then I'm going to say the collection ID, which text on top is to do collection. And then what we want to actually insert into to do collection is our new task that we just created. So I'm going to do new task. There we go. And then we're going to close end this with a curly brace. I mean semicolon. I can't really speak today. A semicolon, and then what this is saying is first things first, we check, then we create the object, then we add it to our collection. And then we're going to use a W. We're going to grab something again, and what we're going to do is we want to refresh the to-do data set. So we want to refresh this data set because once this data set refreshes, this repeater will grab the new things from that data set. So we're going to do dataset.refresh. It's a method, so I need to add that and close it. So this should be all the code you need for that part. So again, what this function does is it gets element entered into task input. It then community clears it, so the user will think it looks like it's been added once someone hits the button, and then it checks to because we're going to essentially tie the button to here, but essentially it as it inputs a task in here. Once you hit the button, this function will run, and what this function does is first things first, it takes copy whatever the user entered in here, stores it for us, it clears it so it looks like it's been sent to the user. Then it actually checks to make sure that this is empty. So if the user entered just a bunch of spaces, nothing will go through. And then it prepares a new task right here, and then it inserts into the collection, then it refreshes the data set what this repeater is linked to, and then it will update with the new object. And this happens, we want this to happen whenever this button is clicked or when someone hits enter inside this input box element. So to do that, we're going to add some event handlers. We're going to define it inside the w_on_ready function. So first things first, we're going to continue and hit enter a few times. Now we're going to say this is an event listener. So first things first, we're saying event listener on, and this is going to be on ready. And this function is saying, oh, you can also see, so actually that's really good. Let me see if I can see. So on ready, it is a type of handler, and we're going to create this as a function. we're going to create an arrow function. So this will basically essentially say on every time on ready, it runs this actual function within. So we're going to do that. And the event handler we're going to do, so on ready is when the page loads in. And now we're going to do a W object. We're going to have it look for add task button. If you hover over this, you can see this button is called add task button. So we're going to pull down add task button, which will probably actually autocomplete for me. It does. I need to just do this better without typing it myself. So I think, let me just make sure. So I think if I just do a hashtag and do like what's called, it was called add task button, it will just automatically do it for you. You don't have to type out each line. You can just reference item on the page by default. So we're going to do an on click listener. So we're saying when that button is clicked, what do we want to do? When that button is clicked, we want to call the function we just wrote, the async function that we just wrote. So it's asynchronous, so it can run after you click on it. And then we're also going to write, so that handles the click, but we also want to write one for when someone's in this task input and hits enter, right? So we're going to first is we're going to reference task input to pull down that element. And then we're going to say on key press, we're going to run an async function, an asynchronous function that takes the event. Because we want to be more specific for this one. That one is just one button click. But this one, we only want it if someone enters the enter key, right? We don't want any key, right? So on key press is for any key. But we want to make it even more specific that we only want this to work on the enter key. So we're going to first create another function within that. And then we're going to write it as if. The condition is if the event, because I got this wrong. So you want to make sure this is named right. So event, if the event that of the key press, so this is saying the event of the key press dot key. So we're looking at the key that has been entered. It's equal to, let's say enter, which is the enter key. We then want to add a new task. If it doesn't, we don't want to do anything. And this is just a shorthand of validating this if statement, and then after the if statement is done validation, this runs, right? So essentially, we now created on ready list handler or listener for this page that on a click on this element, which this button is called add task button, on the click, it runs our async function add new task, which we already explained what it does on top. Then for the hashtag task input, we clicked on key press. Then we were merged this thing. We want to click for the enter key. It also calls the function we wrote above. And then this should be done. And now we want to add functionality in the next module for adding function for changing the task status, right? So this is great. Now we have that done. Now we want to make sure these repeaters where these toggle button actually works and modify our backend of our database. So I'm actually going to go back here because they actually wrote some really nice graphics to understand the flow of a user interaction. So user first checks or unchecks the checkbox, which is not true. It's not a checkbox. They check or uncheck the toggle button. And then on that event change, we want to get the task and update the task. So here's more step-by-step instruction. I might actually not, actually no, we can type out everything. We're really close to having a decently finalized product. So the next thing is we're in the same place because we're not on a different page. We're going to write our next thing. Actually, I'm just going to copy it over. And then we can go over it and see what it does instead of me sitting here typing it fully out. So first things, we're going to create essentially a handle switch change, which then takes the event. It looks at item, and you can see that in this case, the item is referring to at the event contact. So it's saying looking at the event. So when you click on this, an event is triggered, right? And then it grabs the item's ID, grabs the title, so it grabs this text, it grabs if it's checked or not checked. So this is all just things about this specific item. And it's grabbing it through the event. So it's saying handle switch change. So whenever this is triggered. So whenever this is triggered, this function will look at this event and then grab all the information we need. And then it creates a let object, which is a modifiable object. Const are not modifiable, let are modifiable, right? So then we grabs the ID, builds this object. And then what it does is it then goes to collection and uses update. Before we used add. This time we're using update to modify the item that's already in collection. And what we do is we tell it what item to update and we tell it what collection, and then we refresh the data set. So that's something that already did. So example, so a few bit of information is the switch element is called properly checked rather than complete. And when Wix.update is used, we actually pass it the update database, and we'll update the item that matches that event. Then now we need to write complete switch. So for now we need to write the actual handler. So we're saying complete switch unchanged. So when on this change, we want to run this function. And this function again goes through, pulls the diff information for that element. Then it creates the object to update, and then it queries the actual database with what's data, with the actual collection, and then he calls an update on it, and then it refreshes the database so you can see the changes here. And then we are also going to write the functionality for this up right here, which is the amount of items that has not been clear, right? That's actually pretty easy because we're just going to use Wix data query. We're going to query to see the number of item that is not set to completed, and then we know how many items is left. You can see right now it says 0, even though there is 1 because this functionality has not been written. So I'm also going to just copy the code over. If you have any questions, feel free to ask about it. So in the walkthrough, you can see they created a get incomplete to do count item, which is Wix data. It queries the actual database, it counts it, and then so we know how many items has not been done. And then we also need to implement a async function that starts it. So right, so this is saying the second we get in, we want to init this so we can actually know the number of items we have that is left. The first thing we do, and we can work on that a lot later. Now we need to modify. Let me just see. Right now the init function is small. Oh, wait, what is this? Now we need to modify code end of already. So the first two place login for sure not covered. Simple. So because we also want to do login. So there's a lot here. I want to take a pause here and take a look at our preview because we're coming to the end of our time. I don't want to take any questions people will have. So we're ending at modular 4 of the multi-modular. So we have completed everything up to modular 4. So we've done the ability to create a database collection for tasks. We also presented the task on page. We added functionality for adding a new task. We added functionality for changing the task. We're on module 5, uncompleted task counter. And you can complete and you can continue to follow through. And it goes all the way down to deployment to a production environment. So you can continue following through this workshop at a later date. I do want to take a second to address any questions or concerns if we had any in chat. And you can see this preview. And now if I click on this, you can see it actually is updating the collection. If I do, let's say now if I do new task and I enter, you can see that on that trigger, wait, on that trigger, did I miss something? Let's see. I'm going to go back and check. Because on that trigger, it should have called the thing and modified it. Let me check real quick. So code, empty string, async add task. I should be on ready. W add task button on click calls add new task, which this should work. Okay, let's go back and go to preview. Maybe it just doesn't work in preview mode, but essentially what happens if you click on this button, it triggers the rest of that and then add the task in there. And then we will have to build out the rest of this functionality. But from before that, we're actually going to go over here. And as a pseudo exercise for you to see how this can be used to complete something bigger, I'm going to first things first is I don't want to. So first, before I clear out my complete task, I've completed a good chunk of the Global Hack Week, so I'm going to leave that unchecked. I learned how to make a to-do list a bit. I also have to come up with some. We're going to work on this right now, so I'm going to click on this, and then we'll click on yes. So when you write that functionality, you'll be able to use it. So since we are doing social good, I want to kind of use this tool and let's come up with some idea we can do as projects for, let's say, social good, right? So for example, I think this is probably why I'm the worst at it. So for example, for maybe a project for social good that you guys can work on for Global Hack Week, maybe continuing to build a Wix workshop. I mean, a Wix website. What is it? Workshop website that brings what is it? What's the word? not attention, but brings awareness to issue around you. All right, that's a pretty simple one we can do. We can continue working on Wix Workshop that helps bring awareness to issues around you. You can see that that can be fixed. When you work on yours, you can work on fixing how this is displayed by maybe editing the actual element so it actually extends a bit longer, because you can see that text actually goes off. Other things we can possibly do, right? There's a lot of cool other have other people come to Global Hack Week streams on Social Good, so they can learn about tools and technologies, then they can apply to their communities and build upon that. So that actually reminds me of a few things. I'm gonna check real quick. So after me, we have our really cool Today in Global Hack Week stream, where we will go over everything that's going to happen throughout the rest of today, as well as a bit into tomorrow, because they're in 24-hour increments. And right after me, we have the Today in Global Hack Week. You can go to that stream, come up with a lot of ideas, share it with them, bring your ideas over. And is there any question about anything we've done so far? If not, I do have something pretty cool I want to show you guys with the time we have left. I don't know if you've seen people trying to learn how to type fast to help, let's say, transcribe. The reason I'm sharing this is it kind of fits in the theme of Global Hack Week Social Good. So some people might have, I don't want to say disability, but a hard time learning, or they need accommodations for them to do equally as well in learning. And what is really cool is if you ever seen, let's say, a court or what is it? Is it court? A court like typer, whatever they are called. They have that tool where they're not typing each letter. They're pressing a certain combination of letters, and from that they can generate words really quick. And that is a tool and technology that can help in an educational realm to bring social good to help breach the barrier of note taking and providing really well taken notes for people who might need extra support or assistance in learning. So for example, I got this keyboard recently. This is exactly a replica of what they use in courts, but done in a more modern digital way that works with a computer. So I don't know how to do this. I'm going to learn how to do this. But essentially, if I can pull it up, actually, I'm going to pull this up on a different screen first to make sure I can actually pull this up. So court, C-O-U-R-T, typer. I forgot what they're called. I think the for reporters were, so like it looks like kind of like this. Okay, so if you don't know, in like courts, because they speak so quick and they can't really miss something, they have a keyboard that kind of looks like this that allows them to hit just combination of keys, and that will just generate words. And it's a lot more faster because they don't have to hit each letter. They just get hit once and they move on to the next word, and it's super, super duper quick. This is a really old version of it. I forgot what these are called though. Let's take a look. So these are called, I wish that someone has this like actually noted on what this is called. Oh, and here is another version. So like you can see that this is like another version of like when this hits, these certain keys hits, that is girl, and it will actually type out girl. This is like another version of this. I think they're called court reporters, court typers, etc. But it's a really cool thing because it really helps speed up the ability for them to type. Oh, I found. Oops, I did not mean to do that. It's called I can't pronounce this, but we'll look at the Wikipedia page. It's called I think it's stenotype. I can't read. So a certain machine or a certain type machine is a specialized type of keyboard typewriter used to shorthand use, blah, 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 blah. Essentially, they look kind of like this. You just hit a certain number of keys and they generate full words. So for example, the letter B or da, da, da. It's like a really thing. I have to learn this still, so I really can't talk about this. Really cool. Oh, yeah, exactly. Whatever you call that. It's a really cool thing, because it can really, if you understand how to do this, this can be really useful in the educational space for people to note taking, because I at least think it's really hard to follow along with a professor sometimes, or a teacher sometimes, and write note and understand the concept at the same time. But if you have someone who just are able to type all this out for you really quick, let's see if I can just like, is this like a demonstration? I have no clue. And I'm just not gonna look at that because I don't know what that video is. But yeah, so that is like my social good idea. That I wanted to share, and it's something I just got in the mail. I'm gonna learn how to use one of these, and then maybe start transcribing for things to help accessibility and the ability to access content afterwards. It's pretty cool. I just actually got this in the mail like yesterday, so it's a pretty cool toy. Um, but people can type so much faster when you do this comparatively to a regular mouse and keyboard. I wonder if there is a video. Let's see. So I'm gonna call my example. It is really nice. I hope you guys can't hear my audio. I don't think you guys can, but I'm gonna see if I can get this video. I'm just vetting this video out real quick before I play it. Actually, I should probably not play a video. Like, I don't remember if I'm allowed to play video on stream, but it's really cool. If you ever see it, they just hit, and the words just pop on the screen. They go super quick. I recommend you guys look it up a bit yourself. It's a pretty cool concept, if you do ask me. Oops. Okay, cool. So I'm going to actually take this away, go back to full screen. So I hope you guys had fun and learned a bit about Wix, as well as possible social good idea and projects you can do. And please do stick around for our day and global hack week. I forgot what we call it. Let me double check that. Do stick around for our day and global hack week. Yes, 100%. That's the cool part about Velo by Wix, is you get your full entire development experience, including being able to add custom CSS and etc. I do have to hop off soon before I get deleted by the Day in the Global Hack Week team. But I do want to again thank everyone, and please stick around for a day in the Global Hack Week. Let me do that for a day in Global Hack Week. I'm going to save this. Please do stick around for a day in Global Hack Week. I do wish you guys have a wonderful rest of your day and enjoy. Yeah, if I learn it by that time, I will not be using a regular keyboard anymore. I will be using that specific mechanical keyboard. Take care, everyone. Enjoy. Have a great rest of your day. Do stick around.